Hey paddle bosses, in this video I'm going to teach you how I set up my paddle. Before we get into actually setting up the paddle and putting the lead on the paddle, I want to explain what lead tape does and how putting it in different parts of the paddle will affect the play of the paddle. The first place that you can put it is going to be down here at the throat. That doesn't really affect how your paddle is going to feel when you swing it. It really just adds and enhances to your sweet spot and then also adds some static weight. That's the way that I personally set up my paddle, but there's a few other ways that you can do it as well. Second way that you can do it is going to be just on the side right here at the 3 and 9 o'clock positions. That's going to add a little bit of swing weight to it and also enhance the sweet spot, so it'll give you a little more power and a little larger sweet spot. That's where a lot of people like to put their lead because it gives you the best of both worlds in one way. And then the final place that you can put it is going to be up on the top here. The farther away you put your lead from your hand, the heavier your paddle is going to feel, and you're going to get a lot more plow through, and you're going to get a lot more power when you put it farther away from your hand. So when you put it on the top, I would start with less weight, so that way you're not, first of all, straining your arm because you're not going to be used to it, but also hitting balls long because of the extra power that you're going to get by putting it on the top. You may also be the kind of player that likes to play with no weight at all. Our paddle stock weight is weighted at 8.05 ounces, which is already heavy for a lot of people. So you might just want to play it stock. One of the people that prefers to play it stock is actually my dad. He doesn't put any weight or any grips or anything on his paddle. He plays the paddle completely stock, and there's nothing wrong with that. I personally like to add weight to my paddle because I like it a little heavier than the stock weight. I like it around 8.7 ounces, which is exactly where my lead setup is going to get us. So without further ado, let's get into the lead setup. What you're going to need to set up your paddle is, of course, your paddle. You're also going to need all these items here. They're all going to be listed in the description below if you need to purchase any of the items before we get started. But the first one is going to be lead tape. I like 5 1/4 inch long strips, 2 of them, 1 gram per inch lead tape, and they're 1/2 inch in width. This is the kind that I prefer. You can try different kinds if you want, but these are the kinds that I use. The next thing that you're going to need are overgrips. I personally use Turna Megatac overgrip. I've been using it for a long time. Great overgrip. I'm very much a fan of that one. Some electrical tape. You can do any color that you like, but I do 3/4 inch width electrical tape. I use whites, but you can use whatever color you want. And then scissors for the last thing to cut your overgrip at the end. All right, so step number 1 is of course going to be putting our lead tape on. I have a specific order that I like to do it in, but you can do it in whatever order you want. But I always start with the lead. So I'm going to take my first strip of lead here. I usually prop the paddle in between my legs like this to give myself a good base to hold it in. Gonna take this, and on the sticky side, I'm gonna just take off the protective tape here. So this is very sticky, keep that in mind. This will stick to pretty much like anything and it'll stay. So keep that in mind when you're putting it on. I like to line it up with the USAPA approved logo on your paddle. I like to line it up with the bottom of that logo, and I do that for both sides. So right here, we're just gonna line it up right at the bottom, right there. I stick my first piece on. It's still a little flappy right there. So I just hold it with my thumb and pull down so that way it's tight, and lay it across the side of the paddle just like that. Bam. I always run my finger along it so that way there's no air bubbles and it lays flat on the paddle. When you're done with this length of paddle, it should be going about 1/3 of the way up the flat side of the paddle. So I'll just do that on the other side now. Same thing, prop it between my legs here, peel off the covering tape, and do the same thing. Try and line it up with the bottom of the logo here. Bam. Here, we're gonna pull it tight. Oops, pull it tight like that. And then run your finger along so that way there's no air bubbles and it lays flat. At the end, this is going to be your lead tape. So along one side of the corner and the other corner down below, this is going to enhance your sweet spot. I love this lead setup. It's perfect for me. So this is it right here for lead. The next step is going to be doing the electrical tape. So I always do lead tape first, and then I cover it with the electrical tape. The reason I cover it with electrical tape is because it protects the lead, so that way when you like scrape your paddle on the ground, it's not chipping the lead and throwing off the weight after that. And then it also protects your edge guard a little bit. But the way that I do this is I actually, if your paddle has one of these, one of these little like rubber things, I take it off the grip first because I like to put the beginning of my electrical tape underneath that thing, so that way the little rubber thing holds down the electrical tape so it doesn't come up after you put it on. So take your electrical tape and put it on the side just like this, so it's flush with both sides, just like that. Don't cut it yet. Make sure you go all the way around the head of the paddle before you cut it, but now we're just gonna run it along the whole side of the paddle here, trying to make it as flush with the edge as you can. Sometimes that's difficult, but oops. Stick that bad boy back on there. If it helps, you can run your finger along as you go, so that way it stays. That one just came up a little bit, which is a bummer, but just like this, along the side. So it's flush. Now that I got one side done, just over the top of the paddle here, just like that. And then along the other side, down like so, and then down to the other edge. At this point, I like to take my scissors on my electrical tape, will pull out more than you think you need is a good idea, and then just cut it like that. So now you have one long strip. If the strip of electrical tape overlaps into the existing grip, because that happens for me sometimes, see how it goes all the way up into the grip like that, that's fine. When you put on your overgrip, it's actually gonna cover that, so it's totally fine to have a little bit of extra. But once you're done, just run your finger along the side of the paddle like this, making sure there's no air bubbles or anything, keeping it flat on the paddle. And there you go. That's your electrical tape along the side of the paddle, trying to protect your lead. All right, now that you got the lead and the electrical tape applied on your paddle, the next step is going to be putting on your overgrip. So the first thing you have to do, grab your roll of overgrips, or if you just have a single overgrip, then unwrap it, but take one, one off like that. Bam, there we go. And then with this overgrip, just like this, you're gonna take off the plastic wrap on top. The plastic wrap covers the sticky side, so make sure that whatever side the plastic wrap was on, that's the side that you're gonna put on the outside where your hand goes. That's the tacky side that you want on the outside that you would hold. So just unwrap it just like so. Get rid of that because we don't want it. So because the way that Tourna makes their overgrips, they make it so there's no taper on one of the sides. A lot of overgrips, they have it where from here, it would cut off in a direction, and that's how you know what side would be the front. Tourna doesn't do that, so the way that I like to start these is I like to fold one side in half, and it'll make it so that way the first wrap, the first go around is thinner than all of the other wraps. So what I like to do right here is I just take it with this camera, I fold it so that way the tacky side, this is the tacky side, is gonna be the outside of the fold, and I just fold it in half like this. Going down to about, I would say this far is probably enough for your first fold. Here we go. Sorry, just gotta crease this all the way up here. Cool, just like this. So your first fold is gonna go about that far down. When you're about to grab your paddle and start to put this on, make sure that when you put the fold on, the open part of the fold, this part of the fold, is gonna be facing upwards like this. So pick a side that you wanna start on. I'll pick this side, for instance, and just stick the grip on just like that. So Tourna doesn't have anything to stick it to the grip, so you just have to hold it down with your thumb. And then on your first go round, the entire thing is gonna be folded in half like this. So on your first one, you're just gonna fold it all the way around. Make sure not to let go with your thumb or else the thing will come up and it's gonna be very frustrating to put that whole thing on. But just like this, your first one folded on the first go round like this. Now when you get around to where your finger is holding that first one down, make sure that you overlap the whole thing. You don't wanna go down part way and leave any of that blue exposed like that. So make sure that on your first one, you wrap all the way around so that way there's no blue exposed on there. After that, after your first one, you're gonna take the part that's folding open right there, and you're just gonna turn it down like this. So now you have this weird sort of crease looking thing. If you want to, you can actually crease that, and that'll be kind of where you start to wrap the rest of your grip. So from there on out, you're just gonna wrap this way, making sure to cover the whole thing so that way no blue is exposed. And then you're just gonna wrap it all the way down the paddle. So like this. Once again, making sure none of that blue is exposed. So I'm just gonna wrap so that way about that much of the grip is underneath the remaining grip. So just like this, bam, all the way down the paddle. A lot of people, they get sort of uptight with their overgrips because they don't like to have a differing amount of space in between each wrap. I don't really care that much. So if it's not perfect, that's fine with me. You can do that for yourself, but it's not perfect and that's okay. When you get to the top, or in this case, I guess the bottom of your grip, I always stop right when I'm about to wrap over the last part of the finishing tape right there. And then before I do that last wrap, I like to take a pair of scissors right here. So I'll just set it down like this. And with my pair of scissors, I'm gonna go probably half of what's left with this grip right here. And half of what's left with that grip, I'm gonna hold it with my finger like this, and then cut starting from the paddle side down to the grip side. So right here, we're just gonna make our first cut and go down a little ways like that. So now when you've cut the grip, this part of the grip is going from grip going up towards the paddle head. So with that, you're just gonna flip that bad boy back over and continue wrapping until you run out of grip. So one more here, and then it should be one more go around, just like this. And that is the end right there. So once you get to the end, hold down that little piece so that way it's not gonna come up and unravel itself. That's happened to me many times and it's not fun. Once you're done, at the end of your grip, you're gonna take your tape at the end like this, and you're just gonna stick it on that remaining part of the grip and wrap it all the way around so that way that sucker is stuck. Just like so. Boom. And then because I don't really love that the finishing tape that they give you with this grip is red, I always take this little rubber thing at the end and just stick that bad boy back on top so that way it covers the red. It goes with the paddle a little better. And I like that a little better as far as the looks of the paddle goes. We don't like to show any red. And there you go. That is your completed PaddleBoss fully set up with my preferred lead setup and overgrip.
Hey, if this video has been helpful and you want to take your pickleball game to the next level, attract better partners, and make less errors on the court, I want you to click the link below, which will take you to a page where you can enroll in our 4 Days to 4-0 online training course. We're going to teach you in that course what took us a long time to learn about the game of pickleball, to be able to get to the shots that you need to be able to excel in your game quickly. So if you want to take your game to the next level, get to a 4-0 and beyond, then click the link below, enroll in 4 Days to 4-0, and we look forward to seeing you on the inside.